Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, guys. Hey, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. I have an amazing guest. You guys know I love when I get Mary D on the air. She is just an incredible speaker. She does, of course, she does speaking gigs all over the place. She sits down with like CEOs and lets them know what time it is and what they should be doing to improve what they're doing. She's been doing this for a while. She's the founder at the MADLOVE agency. And go to maryd.com. And if you want to call in, you can. Ask Mary D a question, 631 687 5800. Or you can just use the instant feedback. Just go Casey Instant Feedback at gmail.com. It pops up on the screen. My producer will read it. Just give me your name, city, state, and if you're bashful, just say anonymous. And Mary D will answer your question live on the air in the comfort of your own car, your home, your business, whatever it may be. We go the extra mile for you, and so does Mary D. She answers all of the questions, and when we run out of time, she goes, well, I want to get to them next time. So you're very important to her. So guys, with no further ado, it is my honor and privilege to bring back to the program on the Mary D show, the one and only Miss Mary D. Mary D, how are you today?
I am feeling so good, high on life, and ready to share the secrets to living a life of more joy with everyone today.
Love it. And you've been you just got back. You've been traveling all over the place, right? Like, well, as
Yeah.
always.
Yeah, I have. I've been in Austin for like 3 weeks. It's amazing. I might have gone for a little magic grandmother ceremony. That was my original,
That's right.
reason to go. And then after that little ceremony, I just enjoyed some integration time and enjoyed hanging with some of my best people. One of my business partners lives there. And I've got actually a friend from elementary school who lives there. Yeah, it's great. And it was just fantastic. We did a lot of celebrations of life, had like a 5-in-1 birthday party, and it was good. It was good. It was good to celebrate everyone and be in nature and just take all the love in. It was good. It was good for
That's
me. Good for my soul.
Yeah, Mary D. You're somebody who works nonstop. I mean, this is your passion. This is what you do. You help people with the knowledge that you have, and you sit down with people. But how important is it to take just a couple days here and there to kind of get away from work, or do you even know what that is?
Oh no, 100%. So I am definitely not about the hustle culture. Like that's so far from me. I'm definitely someone who is like, hey, play fully. And when you play fully, you're able to live fully. And I integrate that in every area of my life. So into my work, into my day to day, and really taking the time to get centered, having those really great habits of even how you start your day and end your day. Like, I believe there's so much tied into how we live our life holistically. Like, it's not just a get up and grind mentality. At least it's not for me. And I had to learn that the hard way, actually, Casey.
What do
There
you
was a
mean?
time, well, I had breast cancer back in
Oh yeah,
2017. I
yeah.
got diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was, here I was thinking that I was so healthy. Like, I would get a massage, like once a week. And I thought that was like major self care. And I learned really quickly, like, hey, that's not enough. Like, there is something to be said for our peace of mind and living in alignment. And that was a big theme, I would say, this last month is how do we really live in a place of alignment? And alignment means how are we completely honest with our integrity, with ourselves, with how we operate, with how we would like to operate, how we know in our heart we should be operating, and how do we also make a stand for stepping into that every day. One of the clients that was with us, she was really struggling because she comes from a very religious family, and she's literally been basically lying to her parents for this for the last 7 years. And she's at a point where she's about to get married to her boyfriend, and her mom has known, but her dad hasn't known that they've been living together.
Living together.
And
That's what I thought. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. And this is a big deal in their family. Big, big deal. And so part of it was just having the conversation around how does that feel to know that every time you show up at your parents' house that you're having to lie to them?
Yeah.
And then how does it feel for your future fiance who has to also be enrolled in this lie? So it becomes this whole thing where you have to continue. And I was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do in a few years from now when you have children? Are you going to be like, hey, don't tell grandma and grandpa we had bacon for breakfast? Like it becomes right. I mean, it
Yeah.
does. It becomes this. What now you have to start enrolling everyone into the lie. So why not now? Why don't we come clean with what we know is the truth so we can start living in alignment? And sometimes that conversation may be with our parents to say, I love you and I have so much gratitude for everything you've done for me. But also, like, I am choosing to live my life differently. Like, these, your beliefs, I honor them and I respect that they are your beliefs, but they may not be mine going forward. And I want you to know that. And I hope that we can still love each other. And maybe there are certain topics that we'll just have to agree to disagree on. But I don't want to have to live in a lie because it doesn't feel authentic.
Right.
And that's such, I get it. It's a hard conversation. She was definitely commiserating over it. She even had her brother throw out like a what if question to her dad. And of course,
Oh no.
her dad's response, oh yeah, her dad's response was, oh, I would have, it would be so shameful. I would never talk to you again, you know, like, and so
Oh
she had
man.
yeah, so she actually thought that was what was coming. But I said to her, look, there are consequences to living out of alignment, and you've done it for so long, but you have an opportunity to change your story at any time and break this cycle. Only you can choose to do it.
Yeah.
And it was just on her heart, and you could tell it was just eating away. And our body stores emotions.
Yeah.
And it's that all you're going to do is press that stuff down and literally be living a lie with the people who are closest to you, with the people who should love you most.
Yeah.
And I said, you're going to have to deal with whatever consequences are consequences in this, but also keep in mind that sometimes it's easy for us in a scenario to say what we think we would do. But when we're faced with the actual truth of a thing, we may change our minds a little bit. And I was telling her, like, give your parents a little more credit. I know that that's even what they're saying, but let's give them some credit. She got brave. She gets home, she calls me, she says, if I don't do it now, I'm never doing it again. And she says, I have to do it now. She reads me what she's written for her dad. She goes that night to her dad's, has the conversation. And guess what happens, Casey?
What?
Nobody gets banished. Nobody is unloved. Nobody dies. Her dad actually hugs her and just loves on her and appreciates her and says, you know what? Thank you for being honest. And like, now we can start clean.
That's awesome.
That was it. There was no, I denounce you. There was
right,
no,
right.
like, you know, there was none of that. And I would say there's probably some things they're still going to have to sort out from all of this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, look, if our parents unconditionally love us, or our family, or our friends, or our spouses, our partners, whatever, if they really unconditionally love us, then this is where they'll be able to share some different beliefs and still love each other. And I think that's the biggest part, is how do we show up and just love each other no matter what, and acknowledge the differences. Just because you don't agree with maybe my lifestyle, or you don't agree with what I'm eating, like, we can just agree to disagree on that. Why does it have to be a you're canceled because you don't eat like me, or you're canceled because you don't believe exactly what I believe? So it's a lot of that. And that was probably one of the most magical things that came out of these last few weeks, is seeing that breakthrough.
That's pretty cool. Now, Mary D, is that the bigger lesson we should take from this story, this event that happened? Is that maybe we should be more honest? What did you take out of it, as far as, something that we could say, this is the lesson that I got?
Yes, the lesson I would say here is, when we can live in alignment, we can operate from this really beautiful place of authenticity. And the other example I'll give you is, so in my own family, I have a niece who is gay. And that was a shock to the system for my siblings and his wife, and like, how, like, what is happening right now? Like, this doesn't align with our religious values. And the funnier part was, well, do you want the relationship with your daughter and who she is, from the core of who she is? Don't you want her to show up happy and authentic? Don't you want to support her goals and dreams, regardless of what she's choosing from a, sexual preference,
Mm-hmm.
like she's still your kid. You still
Yeah.
love her. You still raised this daughter, she's still a beautiful, wonderful human. So like,
Yeah.
what's wrong right here? And once I believe they leaned into that and they recognized we can't say to her like you can't show up to Thanksgiving dinner as a lesbian. You got to show up as a non, like it's just not fair. You're
Yeah,
asking her
that's
to
not
show up
fair.
inauthentically, and so they got over that pretty quickly. And I think that was the big lesson. It was like we can come and fully accept her and enjoy her as the person she is, even if we think that if our belief is that we think it's flawed,
Uh-huh.
but let's still show up and love this person and enjoy that they're around. Otherwise, we're not going to get to have them around at all. And we both lose. We
Yeah.
both lose because it's a strain on the relationship, and it's a strain on again, that belief system. Like what I always want to ask people, what limiting beliefs are keeping you from the relationships that you want? What limiting beliefs keep you from living the life that you want? What limiting beliefs are keeping you from saying what you know needs to be said, for using your voice, for sharing your art with the world, whether that's music or drawing or name all the ways people can be amazingly artistic. Like there's so much of that. And I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like, how do we all show up as better humans? How do we just show up and acknowledge, hey, you are you. I'm going to let you be you and I'm going to be me. And let's like revel in some of that and the fact that we're different, because how boring would it be if we're all the same?
Oh, totally. Totally. And it's you risk, losing someone that you really care about just
That's
for your
right.
stupid old beliefs.
That's
Uh,
right.
don't mean to personalize. All right, so I gotta guys. We're on the Mary D show right here. I want everyone to go to maryd.com, marydee.com. Mary, got to take a short break. Come back, and we'll get into today's topic. And I'm sure we have. Do we have a bunch of instant? Yeah, of course. When she comes on, yeah, I know. We got a bunch of pages of instant feedback that you got to answer.
Awesome.
Your fans are here. So, guys, we'll be right back on the Mary D Show. Stay right there.
My name is Mary D, and I'm the Joy Catalyst, here to sprinkle you with some happy dust and tickle your ear with an invitation to come and join the party. Each show is dedicated to revealing the secret recipes to creating more joy, courage, and purpose in life and business. Join us on the Just Eat the Cake podcast as we discover the ingredients that matter most in this beautiful mess we call life. Show notes and more recipes for joy are available at justeatthecake.com.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, guys. Hey, we're back on the Mary D Show. Welcome back, Miss Mary D.
Thank you.
Mary D, as always, you're a very popular guest here. And Mr. Producer, you have some instant feedback you'd like to run by Miss Mary D?
Yes, we have Jessica from Nevada. With students going back to school, what is one thing you can tell someone that will inevitably deal with stress?
All right, with students going back to school. Okay, so what I'm hearing in this question, Jessica, is you're basically saying it's getting stressful. We're all going back to school. How are we dealing with that? I would say that when it comes to stress, one of the best ways to deal with it, and I tell you this tip from many people I know who suffer with anxiety, from heading up a breast cancer community, which is obviously a high anxiousness, a lot going on there, high stress. And one of the biggest themes I have seen that help with stress is actually the practice of meditation. And I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, I hear this all the time. What is this meditation thing? I can't get quiet in my mind. But what I should tell you, because no one told me this in the beginning, is that there's all kinds of meditations. So one of my favorites is actually a singing meditation. The one that works for me is a singing meditation. I go out in the yard or I go out in nature and I take my shoes off and I ground and I walk around and I sing to myself. And I sing and it clears my mind and I think thoughts of gratitude and love. And that is a meditation that works really well for me. Now I have other friends who will tell you that it's that sitting in that very quiet where you're quieting your mind and you're just focusing on your breath. That is the time for them that gets them in a beautiful place of meditation. When I need quiet time, I will do something like a float tank. I actually did it yesterday, felt amazing. Took my niece for the first time as well. If you've never heard of a float tank, it's called a float deprivation tank. You hop into this like giant, I don't know, pod full of the saltiest magnesium filled water ever. And so you cannot help but float. So
And
any of you
you're
who have,
floating the whole time, right? Yeah.
yes, you float the whole time and you feel weightless. And if you turn off the lights and the music, obviously you have also sensory deprivation in terms of you can't see anything, you can't hear anything, except for you are alone with your thoughts. And what I like to do is set an intention before I get into that tank and say, all right, Spirit, what should I know today? Like, what do I need to really be pondering about and thinking about today? And I find that the things that are most important are those things that come to front of mind. And it gives me some time alone with my thoughts to just think through and to also strategize with myself and to also sit in some of those calm places where I can just appreciate the quietness instead of all the noise that's coming at us, because I feel like we're so attached to our phones and the TV and the
Yeah.
media and all the things. And so there's a place for that. But if it's all the time, that is a lot. That's a lot of feedback and noise coming at us. And I believe that being able to still that noise brings us back to this really great place where we can reset and be back into a place of peace. There's screaming meditations. You guys should look that up for those of you that are like, I can't sit still. Screaming meditations. There are people you literally like yell and scream and talk through the whole thing. So for those of you that are really struggling with getting quiet, that actually may be your shtick. And there's so many really, really great ones. And there's a lot of great guided meditations. I mean, hop on YouTube, hop on Spotify. You're going to see many of those. I have a great one from Shiva Rasa. If you've never heard of her, she's an incredible, like super conscious DJ, and she's the best. And she's got a fantastic like 20-minute one. It's great. I'm happy to share it with you guys. Shoot a message over and I will share that Spotify link with you. It's
Cool.
good stuff.
Now, how do you feel after you do one of those floats?
Oh, so energized. It's like
Really?
my skin feels so good and my sleep is super deep. It's most people don't get enough magnesium. For any of you guys that struggle with sleep, one of my clients is Upgraded Formulas, and they work with they actually test your hair to find out like what minerals are you deficient in.
Wow.
So that and for each individual, it's letting you know what your body needs. But what I love about it most is it's showing so many of us are deficient in magnesium, and we need magnesium to relax, to sleep, for our bodily functions, for reducing stress and things in our life. Like, it's amazing what good, solid, quality magnesium will do for you.
Gotcha. Mr. Producer.
Yes, we have Norman from Virginia. They go, do you think people are less happy in this age of technology?
Great question. Whew. I think that when you look at the tribes of old, even now, like if you go to, I'll give you guys a great example. There's a Yawanawa tribe in Peru. They live without technology, although it's starting to get introduced.
Oh no.
And I know, but the joy that you get in these smaller communities that have they hold to like their community values, their tribe customs, some of their own songs, their way of life. There is something to be said for simplicity and joy. Well, I've been to some of the poorest countries in the world, and yet have experienced some villages where people are so happy and they're so full of life and so full of joy because they're just living in simplicity. They are accepted. They're able to show up as who they are. One of the problems with media is oftentimes that we sit in judgment. And oftentimes that judgment is on ourselves because we're comparing, we're playing the comparison game. And we wonder why we don't have the car that looks like that, or the body that looks like that, or the job that feels like that, or the money that feels like that. And those things become noise. But I have news for you guys. There are really unhappy people driving around in nice cars. There are really unhappy people walking around with a lot of money. This is where we're built for connection. We're built to be able to show up as our authentic selves. And so how do we redefine that success for what is actually important? How do we get centered and not get too caught up in all the other things that are going around us that seem so flash and dazzle?
Yeah.
It's like, how do we center back to that? And it's definitely in relieving that stress, finding those beautiful tools in our toolbox that can help us do that. It's in getting connection, finding those friends and that community that allow us to show up as our authentic selves so that we can live aligned. And when we're living aligned, that shows up in every part of our life.
Got it. Mr. Producer, do I have time for one more, or do I got to wrap?
Yes. We have one more question.
more?
And
Okay.
then we could wrap up. We have Lisa from Arizona. She goes, well, this is kind of like a long question. So, as a business consultant, I have a big ego and I stand up for what I believe in. My peers seem to forget that I'm good with good with making hard decisions when they aren't. Should I manage my ego, and have you experienced this in your line of work?
Great question. So there's a couple things here. The first one I'll say is ego doesn't have to be a negative thing.
Good point.
There's a level of pride and a level of, if you want to call it ego, that's actually really healthy because there's a level of confidence to it, right? And so how do we shift from saying ego is a bad thing to maybe it's not that you're egotistical, but maybe it's that you're just a confident decision maker. And that confidence, it gives you a winning edge,
But it makes
maybe
people
above,
think.
yes, maybe above some folks who are still struggling with the confidence level of making those decisions.
Yeah.
And so how do you not sit in judgment of yourself and say, oh, do I need to lower my bar to make everyone else comfortable? Not necessarily, because sometimes in holding our bar by showing up as the confident person, we actually can encourage others to lean into their confidence, right? We can be a guiding light for them, a great example of like, wow, it's possible. Like, wow, I want to be confident like her. And so how do we show up and say, I'm an example for people? And so let me show up as my most authentic self. And if that is you showing up as someone who's comfortable with decisions and feeling good about that, then do it. Now, I'll also say that when you do make mistakes, it's really important that you own those and that you own them just as fiercely as you own those confident decisions.
Great point.
Because that's really one of the best signs of leadership, is that we own who we are in our decisions, even when we make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that's really what people need to be able to see, is that, hey, we can make mistakes and it's okay. Let's acknowledge them. Let's learn from them. That's the even bigger lesson in all of it, so that we can move forward. Because I'd say that making a confident error and moving forward with it and owning it is better than staying stuck and not making a decision at all.
That's awesome. Guys, you can see why the Mary D show is so popular. I want everyone to go over to maryd.com. Mary, another great show, some great points, and we can tell why you're at the top of your game. And Mary, let me give you the last word here. Anything you want to leave the audience with? You're just a great guest, and I love hearing you. So.
Thank you. I love being here with you too, Casey. So, this is one of my favorite pieces of my calendar every week, is the time that we get to spend together.
Awesome. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for showing up. I love the questions, and it's so good to come and just share knowledge and joy with you. I thought today's show was going to be about sharing this secret formula of having more joy, but I'm going to save that for next week, because we talked today about alignment in living in authenticity and owning your power, owning your confidence. And also, I'd say the biggest part of this whole show, well, I'll end with, is the last part we talked about, which is move forward powerfully in your level of being able to make decisions. Because the faster you learn from your mistakes, the faster you're going to get to the next breakthrough, the next right answer, the next right move, versus staying stuck in indecision because you're just waiting for more information, you're procrastinating, you're waiting to get started. That's called being stagnant. Let's not be stagnant. Let's keep moving, even if we're going to fall a little bit, because it's better to fall and learn than to sit and be behind the start line.
100%. Guys, the great Mary D. I want everyone to go to maryd.com. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone who wrote, and can't wait to hear what you have to say next. Guys, we'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.